So there's a lot of different diet models out there, and even more people that are ready to die for their diet, telling you all day about how theirs is the best and yours is wrong. And I've done a lot of different diets. I kind of look at myself as like a test dummy or an experiment just to see what it's like. So in this video, we're gonna go over 5 diets and the pros and cons that I have found from my personal experiment of each one. All right, what's up guys? Let's talk about diets. The first one being keto, the second one being high carb. That'll be fun right after keto. The third one, we're gonna go over carb cycling. Fourth is gonna be the single ingredient food diet that I made a whole video on it, but we're gonna go over that one briefly. And then the last one, we're gonna go over the 80-20 diet, which in my personal opinion, everyone's different. That's what a lot of people about like diet culture don't understand, is they think that everyone is built the same and one size fits all. Everybody is different and different things work for different people. The first one we're gonna get into is keto. Now this is the first like diet that I've ever tried. When I first got serious about lifting, you know, I was basically just like, oh, I gotta eat a ton of protein and lift hard. And that's pretty much like what I went off of. But this is the first like diet that I followed. I fell into the trap that like carbs make you fat and all of that hype that was going on around that time. And I wanted to get shredded. So I thought, well, I gotta do keto. And that's how I started my diet journey. Anyways, the idea behind keto, eat very low carb and you replace those carbs that you're not eating with fats. And when you do that, your body starts to produce this hormone called ketones. Ketones allow you to use fat as fuel instead of carbohydrates. I think a big like misunderstanding about keto is when they hear fat as fuel, people think that it means body fat as fuel. It doesn't technically mean body fat. It means like dietary fats. When it comes to body fat, the same calorie deficit rule applies. This is for every single diet out there. For weight loss, I want to specify for weight loss. They just use different methods of putting you in a caloric deficit. Same with keto. Anyways, what are the pros of keto? Keto can be really good for appetite control because carbohydrates do increase your appetite. Think of like a plate of like 10 chocolate chip cookies or 10 huge pieces of steak. You eat one chocolate chip cookie, you want to eat the rest of them, right? You want to eat all of the chocolate chip cookies versus if you eat one of those huge steaks, it's like you don't really want to eat the other steaks. When you're eating those carbs, that sugary food makes your body want to eat all of them. Protein, on the other hand, protein and fat specifically, is extremely satiating. So you eat some and you're like satisfied, you're good. So that's one of the pros of keto. Anyways, the second one is it increases cognitive function. So this is interesting to me. And I know a lot of high achieving individuals like to use keto for things like this, like Andrew Huberman. When you eat carbohydrates and it has an effect on your insulin and blood glucose or blood sugar levels, it can actually cause brain fog, mental clarity will go down. When you're in keto, and I've found this from personal experience, is you are very, very mentally sharp pretty much all the time, which is really cool. So if you do a lot of work that requires a lot of focus, keto could be good for you in that aspect. But let's talk about the cons. Because carbohydrates are your primary source of energy, especially like explosive energy, keto made my training feel like garbage. Like I always was just bleh. Like I don't know how to describe it. If you've ever tried keto, you know the feeling. You just feel like death. Another thing is like, as far as my physique goes, like sure, I got pretty shredded, but I was like flat 24/7. So you can see I just look squishy. And that was a result because carbohydrates are converted into glycogen, which are stored in your muscles. So the more full you are with glycogen, the fuller your muscles are, the rounder they are, the harder they look. If you've ever heard like bodybuilders like carb loading before a show or something like that, that's like the idea of filling up those muscles with carbohydrates, glycogen. And because keto is zero carb, it's just flat 24/7. And I had this like, I was shredded, but I had this soft, squishy look. The last con that I see with keto is the disordered eating habits that it can create. So because you're restricting such a highly palatable food group, and not just like one or two foods, like the whole entire food group, no carbs at all, that can cause really, really bad food restriction, eating pattern, disordered behavior. So people tend to snap. They give in and they eat just a little bit, and then that triggers a binge, basically. It also creates food fear around carbs. So I'm sure you've met someone like this. Carbs are the devil, right? Carbs make you fat, right? Yeah, keto is gonna create a lot of those people. that is my experience with keto. So let's jump into high carb. That seems appropriate for right after keto. For this diet, I was eating 300 to 400 grams of carbs every single day. And on Saturdays, I was having like upwards of 800 grams of carbs in the form of pancakes with real icing. Every single day I was eating pancakes, bagels, tons of oats. I don't remember exactly what I was eating, but it was just super high carb diet, really low fat diet. I was around 180 to 190 pounds when I ran this diet. And if you aren't familiar with like macros and diet nutrition, that is a ton of carbs for 180 to 190 pounds. 300, 400 grams a day with a refeed every Saturday is just ridiculous. Pros of this diet. One, I really enjoyed the food. Obviously, I'm like the pancake guy and I got to eat pancakes every single day. Two is gonna be my training felt amazing. Like when I went into the gym and I had so many carbs in me, I just felt like a superhuman. Three, I was absolutely peeled to the bone. Like I was shredded. I had such a cool look. I looked crisp. And that was from like, I talked about in the keto a little bit being full versus flat. Like I did not have that squishy look. The cons of this diet, it was probably abysmal to my health, like absolutely terrible. My blood glucose levels were like constantly through the roof. My veins were just always just popping out. So I probably knocked a couple years off my life, to be honest. Like my heart was probably screaming eating this many carbs and that much sugar every single day. The second con is gonna be diet adherence. This diet was hard to keep under control. So the reason I was shredded was because I was still eating within my calories. I was eating in a caloric deficit except for that refeed. But this diet was extremely hard to stay self-controlled during. So because carbohydrates cause that appetite to go up, oh, it was hard. Like I'd eat those pancakes and I would have to force myself to stop, but I'd be like, oh, now I want another plate. And same thing with like anything, any of the carbs. Like I eat bagels and I just wanted to eat the whole pack of bagels. So this diet was tough in that aspect. The only thing I think that kept me going was that refeed every single Saturday. The reason I was able to have that refeed is because the training style I was doing was like a super high volume glycogen depletion training style. So I was just burning through those carbs. And yeah, if you're someone that is genuinely like trying to get things under control and lose weight in a healthy aspect, I don't recommend this at all. If you're a fitness freak like me and you just want to try something fun, try a high carb, low fat diet. It's a ton of fun and it's really, really good. It's kind of funny that this was probably one of my best looks ever when I ran a high carb, and you got all these people swearing on God's name about how carbs make you fat. It's like I ran this diet eating like 400 grams of carbs a day and I was peeled to the bone. I think that's kind of funny and I'm actually redoing it. So I started this diet again yesterday. Bagels for breakfast. I'm eating pancakes for my post-workout dinner. I'm eating oats, a ton of fruit every single day. I plan on making some videos about this, so subscribe if you want to see the results, but I'm gonna get absolutely peeled to the bone on a high carb diet again, simply to prove those people wrong. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, one of my biggest pet peeves is people that swear that their diet is the one and only way. So stay tuned if you are interested in seeing that. But anyways, on to the next diet is going to be carb cycling. Carb cycling is more advanced, but the idea is you have varying amounts of carbohydrates on different days of the week. Now there's two reasons to carb cycle: the cosmetic effect. So carbohydrates do retain some water. When you eat carbs, like you'll get a little bit softer. I'm sure you've noticed this, as if you eat like a super high carb meal or day or something, like you'll look a little bit soft the next day. It's not body fat, it's probably just some water retention. But carbohydrates fill up your muscles. So if you just don't eat carbs, you'll also look soft from your muscles being flat. So if you manipulate those carbs and you eat them in varying amounts on different days, you can get a really, really full look, but really, really dry look at the same time, making for a cool cosmetic effect. Also, this is another diet that like people can run if you get like super low on the calories, but you want to keep pushing it. So this is really common among bodybuilders coming up to a show. So say, for example, please don't try this. Say you're at like 1,500 calories per day and you really can't go lower than that without suffering some serious consequences, but you want to keep pushing the fat loss. You can manipulate the carbs and try carb cycling. So you can have those like 1,500 calorie days with some carbs on your training days. And then on your rest days, you can cut some carbs to lower the calories even more because you don't really need the carbs as much since you're not training. Those are the reasons you might want to run carb cycling. Now the pros of this diet are going to be one, food variety. Constantly switching up the macros every single day made it really fun because I ate a lot of varying foods, and it was pretty easy to adhere to this diet just due to the amount of like foods I got to eat. Next one is going to be increased insulin sensitivity. I noticed that when I carb cycled, whenever I had those high days of carbs, my body just soaked them up. It was crazy. Versus like on the high carb diet, when I was eating so many carbs every single day, it was like my body was kind of used to it. So it was kind of like neutral all the time. I didn't really get that crazy, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I would just remember when those high carb days hit, I'd eat those carbs and I could just feel it just like entering like my system and stuff. And then the third pro is going to be that cosmetic effect and the insane pumps on the high carb days, just due to my body just soaking up those carbs. So the cons, the exact opposite. On low carb days, I felt like absolute garbage. The second con is it was pretty complicated. It's a pretty advanced diet. It's not just like one that you're just like, okay, here's a diet and you should do it. I was constantly like tinkering with the macros and the numbers, trying to like optimize what was the best amount for every single day, the best schedule to run to get the results I wanted. So it was a complicated diet. The third part is like the disordered eating habits and the bad relationship with foods. So if I were to eat carbs on what was supposed to be a low carb day, I just like felt so bad and guilty about it. I felt like I had to like do something about it. Like I'd hop on a treadmill for an hour just simply because I ate a little bit of sushi with my family or something like that. So that's not healthy. But yeah, carb cycling was fun as long as like you're aware carbs aren't the enemy and you don't take it too seriously. You can have fun with it. I might try it again someday just because it did give me a cool like cosmetic effect. I looked peeled when I carb cycled. But anyways, the next diet is gonna be the super ultra clean, single ingredient only food diet. I made a whole video on this. I'll link it up here somewhere. Check that video out if you wanna go into much more detail, but real quick, I'll run over the pros. One, I remember I got like a really cool cosmetic effect from it. I looked super dry just from no additives, artificial sweeteners, any preservatives, anything like that. Like I just looked really good. Two, I felt like God on this diet. Like I remember my mental clarity was absolutely nuts. I just felt good and healthy and full of energy, obviously. Noticeable like boost in cognitive function and productivity as well. I'm guessing this has something to do with the stable insulin and blood glucose levels, but I was still eating carbs. They were just like really healthy carbs, super slow digesting. I was eating oats and stuff like that and fibrous carbs like fruits and veggies and stuff. So my blood glucose levels were pretty stable, which can have a positive impact on your cognitive function. The cons of this diet were it was just impossible to maintain in today's society. Nowadays, if you have like a normal life with a family or friends, you can't run this diet. It's just not possible. The whole idea is to stick to it 100%. Only 100% clean, single ingredient whole foods. And that's just not possible if you want to live like a normal human. And then two, I started to like get a lot of food fear from this diet. So towards the end of the diet, I didn't want to go back to eating like processed foods. Having some processed foods isn't the worst for you. It's not going to kill you, but I remember I started to feel really, really bad about myself when I started to like eat those processed foods again. Anyways, I go into much more detail in this diet in my other video, so go check it out. The last diet and the best diet, in my opinion, that we're gonna go over is the 80-20 diet. So the 80-20 diet is 80% of your food intake is clean, whole foods, kind of like the super healthy diet we just talked about, but only 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time is like room for the processed, dirtier foods. This diet is amazing for balance. It gives you the ability to have a super clean, healthy diet and get the benefits from that, but at the same time be able to go out with friends and family and on a date or whatever, or a little treat for yourself every once in a while. And I think that is really, really healthy. So a lot of fitness and weight loss is like mental, you know? Say the diet could be really, really good physically for you, but it's absolutely destroying your head. It's destroying your mental, and that's not healthy. So this diet is really, really good for both aspects. To be honest, I don't really see any cons with this diet. The only one I could potentially see is that it gives a little bit too much freedom. Some people just work best with like a super strict plan. They have to do this. And this one kind of gives you the freedom. It's like, okay, 20% of the time, you can eat what you want. If it's in your calories, go for it. And some people just don't work well with that. Some people need that super strict. That's kind of like reaching, you know? Other than that, I really don't see any cons to this diet. In my opinion, probably the best you could do. 80-20 diet. I preach it to all of my coaching clients if they don't need like a super strict plan to follow. So those are the diets that I wanted to go over and I've personally tried for myself. I just want to say again real quick that all of this is personal experience and everyone is different. I think that there's a lot of benefits to every diet out there. And I think there's a lot of cons to every single diet out there. And I think the diet that you should try is all of them and find what works best for you. And then that can be your diet. This is so cliche, but the best diet is the one that truly works for you. For example, I don't think keto is the best for training and physical purposes, just due to the lack of energy. But if it works for you, and if you can adhere to that and it helps you like stick to it long term and lose a lot of weight, then by all means go for it. If you think carnivore is the best, go for it. Now, I do recommend that you research the other health aspects of every single diet. When I say like all diets are like good for whatever works best for you, I mean for like weight loss. All of the diets out there, every single one of them, work exactly the same way for weight loss. I'm emphasizing again for weight loss. They all put you in a caloric deficit, just with different methods. It's all about diet adherence and what you can stick to long term. Now, again, all the other health aspects of it, there are varying benefits and cons regarding health with all the diets, so you should research that. But again, I encourage you to try it all and then pick the one that works best for you. Everybody's different. It may work for you, but it may not work for someone else. Simple as that. And that's just human nature. We're all just put together differently. We're wired differently. And I think it's really cool, obviously. If we were all the same and one thing fit everybody, then we'd all just be robots, right? But the fun part about fitness is finding out what works best for you and how you operate and finding balance in your own life. So yeah, again, like I said, I am starting up the super high carb diet again. I've got some videos coming up on that. I'm gonna prove to you guys that carbohydrates are not the devil. I'm gonna get absolutely peeled eating pancakes and oats and bagels every single day. So I'm excited for that. Subscribe if you wanna see the results from that. Anyways, if you guys are interested in losing weight, I have two options for you. One is gonna be I'm a diet and nutrition coach. If you wanna work one-on-one with me to accomplish your goals, check out the link in the description for that. If you just want a guide on how to do it, I just released Stupid Simple Fat Loss. Stupid Simple Fat Loss is a no BS guide to exactly how the body burns and stores fat, with a step-by-step guide on how to use that information to lose all the weight that you want. Literally cheaper than the price of going out to dinner, and I think it has the ability to change a lot of people's lives, especially the people that don't understand just how simple fat loss really is. If you are interested in any of those, check them out in the description below. If you want to talk to me or you have questions about my videos, join my Discord. That is where I'm most active. And like the video, please. Thanks. And peace out. Love you.